I am Senator Melanie LeVake, and today we will hold a meeting on the Commission on Pretrial Detention, Pretrial Scheduling, and Pretrial Services. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the Right to Know law. As chair of the Commission, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom software for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom and YouTube, and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, Alan will tell you the email and phone number to contact.
If anybody has a problem, you can email remote@ledge.state.nh.us or call 603-271-3043. Again, that number is 603-271-3043. Thank you, Senator.
Okay, we seem to be getting some kind of feedback here. Not sure why, but could everybody please mute for now? In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we'll adjourn and be rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. So I'll start the roll. Representative Rod. Attorney Locke.
I am present. I am in my office in Concord, and I am by myself.
Thank you. And Honorable David King. Okay, I know he'll be here later. Attorney Hawks.
I am home in Lee, and I am by myself.
Thank you. And Lieutenant Patterson.
I'm in my office in Manchester, and I am alone.
Thank you. Chief Mara. Oh, not here. Okay. Representative Woodbury. Not here. Representative Welch. Not here. Judge Neto.
Yes, I'm here in Portsmouth by myself.
Thank you. Jeannie Haruska.
Morning, I'm at my house in Concord and I'm alone.
Thank you. Chief Toussaint.
I am present. I'm in my office at Rochester PD and I'm alone in the room.
Thank you. Superintendent Church. Oh, can't hear you. I think you're here. Stephen Church. I'm going to go on to Attorney Velarde.
Present in my residence in Dover, and I'm alone.
Okay, thank you. And Melanie LeVake, I'm in my residence in Brookline with 3 cats. And
Senator, Chief
yes,
Morrow joined us.
okay, great. And Chief Mara, hi.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm at my residence in Bedford and I'm alone.
Okay, thank you.
And one other thing, so I see in our attendees list that there's a David Woodbury and then a person named Beth, and I don't know if those are representatives Woodbury and Rod.
Those are representatives, yes.
I will promote them and bring them over. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so Stephen Church, oh, good, so they are here.
Senator
Okay.
Levesque,
Yes.
this is Trixie LeFave.
Hi, Trixie.
Hi, I didn't get the roll call.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm at my family business in Londonderry, and at the moment I am alone.
Okay, thank you. And Representative Woodbury?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was actually listening for quite a while before I got put on, but I've always been here and I'm here now and I'm alone in my home in New Boston.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you. And Representative Rod? Oh, I see her down here. You're on mute, Representative Rod.
Okay, yes, I'm here.
Oh,
I've been
super.
here also.
Okay. And where are you located and are you alone?
I'm in Bradford where I live and I am alone.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're just missing Superintendent Church. I can see him down there, but I don't actually see him. So,
And Senator LeVake, I'll just indicate that this is Susan Ashley. I'm here on behalf of Judge King. I'm the Deputy Administrative Judge, and I'm in my office in Concord alone.
okay, thank you, Susan. Judge. All right, super. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. I believe that, first of all, we're going to go through the minutes. So we'll take about 5 minutes to review the minutes and then accept the minutes. And then we're going to review a very preliminary draft copy of a report. So again, why don't we take about 5 minutes to review the minutes and then we can come back and discuss and vote on it. Thank you. And if anybody doesn't have the minutes, they just came across this morning in your email. So my apologies for the lateness, but they're in your email. Excuse me, could you put yourselves on mute, please? Because we're getting a lot of noise in the background, please. Chief, I think you need to be on mute. Chief Mora, thank you. Okay, is everyone ready to vote on the minutes, and are there any changes to the minutes? Oh, seeing none, let's take a vote on the minutes. Representative Rod,
Yes.
Attorney Locke,
Yes.
okay. Let's see, Attorney Hawks,
Approved. Yes.
yes, and Lieutenant Patterson,
Yes.
Chief Mora,
Yes.
Trixie LaFave,
Yes.
okay. Representative Woodbury,
Yes.
Representative Welch is not here. Okay. Judge Neto,
Yes, though I was only here for part of the meeting. I don't know if that
okay,
matters.
all right. Jeannie,
Yes.
Chief Toussaint,
Yes.
Superintendent Church, is still not here, and Attorney Velarde.
Yes.
Okay, did I miss any of the regular members of the committee? Okay, so the minutes have been accepted. Actually, we didn't have a accept and second, but you know, we're all on board. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so our goal really is to write this report, and it's due November 1st. The report was sent out to you as well. I think that was sent out a little bit earlier, so hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. And this is very preliminary, but we wanted to start with something and then kind of work through it and see what are we missing, what needs to be added to it. And the first thing that is important to look at is what our charge was. And that's the first section. And just want to read it if you don't mind, that our charge is to review and provide recommendations on risk assessment, dangerousness, determinations, pretrial services, and funding for pretrial services in advance of the 2020-2021 legislative session. That's A. B is to review and provide recommendations on cost-effective court communications and scheduling of pretrial matters. C is to review the rates of failure to appear in criminal cases and possible reasons for such failures. And lastly, to solicit testimony and input from the general public. So I wanted to know from the committee members, first of all, do you feel that we have met those particular goals? Or is there anything that we need to do to meet those goals? I'm open to your feedback.
Thought it was a good comprehensive start on what we were supposed to do. And it covers everything but the funding. So I expect that's what we're going to have to be looking at.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Representative Broad. And Representative Woodbury?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've done a fine job. I just have a tiny little nit to pick. And that is, I think the legislative session should read 2021 through 2022, since that's what it will be.
Sure.
And beyond that, I have no quarrel with this part of the report, or really with any part of it.
Okay, that's a good point, and we'll capture that. Thank you. Attorney Hawks?
I was just a little confused in reading paragraph 2, subsection A. The commission recognizes providing pretrial services will cost money for those counties that do already provide services. Should that be do not already provide services?
Well, it sounds like it should be do not. I'm looking at section 2. What
Subparagraph A under funding. I would just suggest that it reads something like the commission recognizes that counties will incur costs establishing pretrial services if they do not already have them in place, or something to that effect.
Yes, absolutely. And Jeannie, you captured that, right?
A second thing that maybe this is too broad a subject, and Trixie can probably weigh in on this, but we've been talking in a number of committees for some time about paragraph 5, the state shall pay bail commissioner fees, which I think is a great idea. But we've floated the idea at various committee meetings that in exchange for the guaranteed payment of fees by the state, perhaps we could add some language. Bail commissioners will be strongly encouraged to assist defendants in filling out requests for counsel forms. I think everyone agrees that the sooner counsel is appointed, the sooner we'll be able to maybe dispose of cases, get things started. It's been an issue for some time that there's a lag between arrests and appointment of counsel. If there's any way to sort of expedite that by tying the two, I know we can't insist because some defendants, for whatever reason, intoxication or just obstinance, wouldn't be willing to fill out the forms. But if there were just some language to say, if possible, and again, we could maybe revisit the form to make it even more simplified, that it has been simplified over the last couple of years. But if it could just almost be reduced to, I don't have any money and I need a lawyer, and just submit that to the court, we could straighten out and catch the tiny percentage that, probably wouldn't qualify for one reason or another later on in the process. Maybe even add an arraignment where counsel's already appointed, counsel would have filled out a more detailed financial affidavit to submit to the court. I think Judge Netto wants to comment on this.
Yes, please, Judge Netto.
So yes, thank you, Randy. That is a challenge. I do have to say, mucking with court forms is a big issue. And so I wouldn't suggest that we've dumbed it down, so to speak, as much as we can. And we do encourage bail commissioners, and I think they are pretty vigilant about that. We just get a 35%, 40% turnaround. I mean, anywhere you can put in there a reminder, that's great. The other thing just to know is that during walk-in arraignments, our clerks are now having the defendants fill out the financial affidavit. So because public defender can't appear until they're appointed. So that we're closing that gap. I just want to be cautious about significantly changing court forms. That's a process we have to go through, and we give it very careful thought, and we have really streamlined them in the past year.
But you think it's a good suggestion to have bail commissioners try to get the form filled out if they can?
Yeah, we instruct them to do that now. So any place you put it is fine.
Right. All right. I'd like to hear from Trixie, our bail commissioner.
Thank you. As a practice and as instructed by our courts, that we, as the bail commissioners, have a package of information that goes to each of the defendants. And when there is a misdemeanor or a felony, the request for a lawyer form is part of that package. I can speak for my practice. Is what I do is I do start the form for them, which is their personal identifying information, and I go right down to their marital status. The rest of that is financial information, and I do instruct them to fill it out as quickly as possible, get it to the court, whether through the Dropbox or through mail. And go through, if the first time around it is denied, they have the right to update their information and resubmit it a second time. So, and that's been from instructions from our courts to do that. And I do know that Manchester District Court sent out an email to the bail commissioners recently that stated that they would encourage that we do it more because they are getting little to no requests for lawyer forms. But as a bail commissioner, that is part of the process that we do. So it's one more piece of information that goes to the defendant as they're leaving the station. Or even if they're not leaving the station and they're being transported to a house of correction, they are taking that form with them. So it is a matter of practice.
Mm-hmm. So is it worthy to be added into the report? It sounds like there is still some concern. So maybe we just need to have a little blurb on the importance or, continue trying to get this information. Randy, would that make you feel?
Every step in that direction is helpful.
Yeah.
I know that there's legislation being contemplated relative to the OCC's efficacy and collections. So maybe down the line, that won't be a hurdle that will be needed sometime in the future.
Okay. And Chief Morrow?
Yes, for that section, I was just inquiring, maybe Trixie could talk about this, but I recall during some testimony when we were meeting in person that we have a shortage of bail commissioners, and I don't know if that's something that should be addressed in this, that could affect the efficiency of getting people to make bail or get interviewed.
Do we have anything? I'm just trying to remember if we have anything regarding the shortage of bail commissioners. We have the fees.
Senator, there is some reference to it, I think, if you go to paragraph 5, it says such challenges have made the recruitment of new bail commissioners more difficult.
Yep. Okay. All right, good.
May I just add that in that paragraph 5, it speaks to possibly having the state responsible for the payment of the bail commissioner's fees. And I do know that creates a real hurdle for the financial aspects of it. And I do believe that what bail commissioners would like to have occur is some sort of enforcement from our point of view to be able to collect it. Because as it stands right now, if we don't collect it, then you make maybe possibly a promise from these people that they will pay, or instruct them to appear in court for their next hearing. And if that gets missed through the court process, a bail commissioner has no recourse other than to maybe make a phone call or two to these individuals to try to make arrangements with them. So there's the enforcement piece for the individual bail commissioner that's missing from all of this. And whether it's, and I've presented other options too, in terms of the court being reimbursed, whether if a person has been approved for a court-appointed attorney, the $40 could come from that fund, the defense fund, because it is part of the process. If the court were to pay the bail commissioners, there's that the court has more leverage to be able to collect from the defendant during the course of their proceedings, so that the state would be reimbursed for that $40. So I think that there are other options other than just laying it at the feet of the court or the state, that if the bail commissioner, again, repeating myself, were to be given some ability to enforce or then to come up with some other dynamics that would help the court to be reimbursed for what they would be paying the bail commissioners. And then you may find that there would be more interest in being a bail commissioner if we knew that our percentage of payment were getting closer to a 90% payment as opposed to down into the 75 to 80% of the time. So that's just options that have been thrown about for the past 2 years.
Representative Woodbury has his hand up.
Hi, I got kicked off for a moment.
I did too.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're all back. Representative Woodbury?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the lines that we've just been discussing, I mentioned casually several meetings ago that I had some real doubts about the constitutionality of charging people for bail commissioners' fees. I'd certainly defer to Randy Hawks on that point, but I'm going to say that I think that it should be a state responsibility, and considering the state budget overall, it's a tiny drop in a bucket, and I'm not going to carry this any further. If nobody thinks that's an important point, so be it. But I have problems with the concept of charging some people for some aspects of court and not charging other people for the same thing. And there I have it. Now, I do have a couple of other quick points to make, and then I won't make any more because that's all I have. I would, going back to the list of attendees, I would give Judge King his full name, just because I think it adds a little gravitas to the proceedings. And lastly, again, on the last page of the draft, subparagraph C, I'm a little unclear. I'll read, in response to COVID-19, certain towns and bail commissioners have initiated the practice of setting bail by telephone. I'm not aware that towns have any role in setting in the process, but that's probably just my inexperience. I guess I'd like to know where towns fit in, and is that an accurate statement, or should that be changed in the final draft?
We have had some testimony here about remote bail setting, and I can't remember if it was it Chief Toussaint that you tell us more about that? What level it's on?
Yes, so in Rochester, we have been utilizing telephonic bail. We have 2 or 3 of our bail commissioners who have obtained the equipment needed on their own and who have been actually utilizing a bail by phone, essentially, system. So it has worked out very well for us thus far. And this has been just out of necessity. We've had several occasions in the recent past where we've made multiple in the tens of phone calls, trying to reach bail commissioners and just have been unsuccessful. So out of necessity, we've kind of adopted this program. now.
Before you go, Randy, I just wanted to ask Chief, is that just in Rochester or is it countywide?
I am not aware if it's countywide, but I can tell you that we weren't the ones that came up with it. I believe we stole the idea from, I think, Epping. I want to say it was Epping, but I'm not positive on that. There was another police department was doing it and hear from them. And
Okay.
like I said, it's been working out well.
All right. So can we get Attorney Hawks had a question first and then.
I think that Chief Toussaint's comments underline or illustrate the real problem, which is getting to be the scarcity of bail commissioners. And so it dovetails with the position that Representative Woodbury is concerned, irrespective of the constitutionality of bail fee collection. I think if we want to assure that bail commissioners are available, it would ensure that if the state picked up the fees, the collection problem is a problem. And as to the telephonic system, I was just wondering, Chief, if it's done telephonically, does the police department then provide the same forms that the bail commissioner would have provided regarding appointment of counsel or request for counsel?
Yes, to my knowledge, and I'm not intimately, it's been a long time since I've bailed anyone. We are able to provide the same service, same forms, same everything.
Okay.
I still think the problem of the reduced number of bail commissioners, the difficulty of locating one, might be at least partially resolved if the state guaranteed their fees. I'd hate to go out in the middle of the night for the paltry sum that they get anyway, and then not even get that.
Yeah, that's a problem. So we're going to go to Judge Susan, and then we'll get you to you, Sean.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up. We did do a brief survey of our bail commissioners, and I'm sure Commissioner Lefebvre was responded to that about doing telephonic bail. We wanted to get a sense of it. So really, to Representative Woodbury's question about what role does the town have, it's really more the police department, the local police department, and their engagement with telephonic bail. We did hear back that there are some departments that don't want to do it that way. I'll just put it in those terms. And it's something new, and it's a little bit unclear of all of the pieces and parts that go into that. But from the vast majority of bail commissioners who are doing telephonic bail, they've just talked about how successful it's been for them personally, much more efficient for the department, more efficient for the defendant, just a faster process. And clearly there's been good communication between those bail commissioners and the local departments to get that set up. So I do think it's something that can be implemented on a broader scale. I just think at this point, there are some departments who have decided not to go in that direction. And maybe that's because they have a local bail commissioner who they, comes at the call and it continues to work for them. But I do agree we have a shortage, and part of the filling of that shortage has been the ability to do it telephonically from someone who's on another part of the state being able to take care of the bail for that department.
Do we have any numbers on that?
We do not have any numbers as far as the number of police departments that are utilizing telephonic bail at this time. We don't have any kind of hard data on it, no.
Yeah, okay, that would be great to have if we could. But also Attorney Locke and then Chief Mora.
So I kind of was going to echo what Randy said with respect to kind of the state taking the responsibility for paying the bail commissioners up front, and then depending on what the piece of legislation says or what the legislature deems appropriate, it can be something that could be covered by the cost containment process, and kind of reflection on whether or not if a person is indigent, that cost would not necessarily be something that gets collected. I mean, there could be a better evaluation of when the state goes and tries to collect those fees after the fact. And it doesn't create, where it's not appropriate, it doesn't create additional process that a defendant has to go through. and experience after the fact. So that's just kind of wanted to echo that and lift that up.
I agree, and the funds wouldn't even have to be earmarked because OCC funds go into the general fund. There isn't an earmarked defense fund or bail fund or anything like that. OCC collections just go into the state's general fund.
Okay. I know I missed somebody here who had their hand up. Was it Pete Mara? Did you have your hand up? Can't hear you.
I see the Judge NATO has her hand up. I can.
That's okay. You can go. I don't want to step on your comment.
Just it all relates to what we're talking about with funding, but as far as the recruitment of bail commissioners, my experience has been that it's more of word of mouth and asking people, would you like to be a bail commissioner, and people getting reached out to, as opposed to, I think we should recommend that to be a more active recruiting effort where it's posted. I don't know if that's done now, but we would get more candidates, and I think it would work out better. I don't think it's all about fees. I think most people don't know what a bail commissioner is or how you get that appointment.
Good point. Good point. Judge Neto?
Yes, that is a great point. I just want to circle back to the funding. I agree. I mean, the bail commissioners are doing incredibly hard work, awful hours, and they deserve to get their payment. And I think the judicial branch has always said this should be funded, as a service by the state. And the only caution I would have on the collections piece, I think it makes sense if we're going to do a collection process for it to go through OCC. Judges are not collection offices. And so that gets really challenging. If we're going to have the judges be involved in that collection, you're going to need a heck of a lot more judges. And that's really a costly way of collecting fees. It's not an efficient way. But so my bottom line is I think the state should be funding it. It's absolutely a necessary requirement, and there should be some enforcement action through OCC.
Okay. Attorney Hawks, Randy?
And simply add to that as of July 1st, judges at the resolution of a case have the ability to say, we're going to waive your OCC fees, or we can waive part of them. And even if the most indigent person, if a judge thought that they could come up with $30, $40, they could say, if the state was paying it to recoup that, they could say, I'm going to reduce your $300 misdemeanor fee to $40. So that would be a wash as far as the bail commissioner's fees for the state's general fund. Just a thought. It wouldn't have to be a collection. It would just be, this would be this at the conclusion of the case, the judge saying $40 is your payment to OCC, not $825 or not $300.
Yeah, I mean, I still have concerns about that already. It's been very challenging for judges right now to make that finding in a sentencing hearing about what people need. It's a whole nother piece of the process. And I worry some of it's falling through the cracks because it's not in our bailiwick. So I'm a little bit concerned about the process, but I don't disagree with the underlying idea.
Mm-hmm. Representative Broad, I think you had a question a while ago. Are you all set?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes. Did you?
Oh,
you had
yes. No, I think that's those are excellent ideas, and the state should be paying for the bail commissioners, and bail commissioners shouldn't have to do anything in terms of collection. I think everybody agrees to that. And I think certainly more people will be interested in being bail commissioners if they know they're going to get paid and get the training that they need to do it. And I don't think it's out there. I've never seen anything in the paper, want ads or anything about needing bail commissioners. So I think promoting that is also important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Jeannie?
I would just know, the ACLU has concerns with OCC and the state being in the service of it, being the role of a debt collection. And so we would support the state paying bail commissioner fees and just eliminating the recoupment process, just having the state bear that cost the way they, pay for other state services. So I would stop it there. I would 100% recommend the state cover the cost, and you just eliminate any kind of reimbursement process.
Okay. Judge Neto?
And just one more point on this. As I'm listening to everybody talk about posting a bail commissioner spot. It's not really like a job. But what it makes me think about, and this is really long-term and maybe not even ripe for the report, is what I'm hearing is sort of this sort of magistrate idea that occurs in other states and other courts, where you maybe hire the bail commissioners as actual employees of the court system, and what they do is set bail and sign arrest warrants and search warrants, and that's their full-time job. But that's sort of long term. But as I hear what we're talking about, we're kind of piecing together all of these parts to try to make it as successful as possible, when ultimately that's where we're kind of headed, it sounds like. But it's a long-term goal, just a thought to throw out there.
Yes, and they'd have to make more than $40.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They'd be full-time employees. It would, yeah.
Something to work towards. Okay.
Senator Lebeck, I did have my hand up. This is
sorry.
Trixie. That's okay. And I'm going to go back a little bit when we were talking about the remote. There is the committee that's sitting, the House committee that's sitting for the pilot program for remote access, and that'll be at 1 o'clock this afternoon. They had their organizational last week. So I'll be involved with that. But having conversations with 2 bail commissioners since last week, the Franklin area has been doing remote, and they have found it to be very successful. The one particular bail commissioner that I interacted with said that he's not doing just the Franklin area, but he's actually been called, so to speak, even outside of Merrimack County to assist. So that's successful for him. But then on the other side of it, there was the bail commissioner from Carroll County, more remote. And he talks about the fact of poor service, not being able to get a connection with the phones and all of that, and actually creating a situation where processing through remote access would take hours because of the lack of service with the internet and things like that. So I'm just giving the positive side of it, as well as the not so positive or the negative side that have been given to me by a couple of bail commissioners.
Yeah, I understand robust broadband is really needed everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I'm going to be on that commission too.
Oh, good.
You at 1. All right. So there are some drawbacks, but there's some positive aspects. Chief Mara?
Just to get back, a lot of our discussion has always been about the different, different county, different court, there's different rules or different customs as far as how bail commissioners, set bails. I do like the idea of having the bail commissioners be an employee, but perhaps even have a certification process where they have to go through it, get certified. They went through training that they've been vetted, and that's no knock on the bail commissioners. There's some really good ones out there that are very dedicated, being on 24-hour call for many years. But I do think that we need to do more as far on that end. And I think it should be a recommendation that, because they are actually making a lot of decisions that have really affected the negative or whatever views of the bail reform has been. So I really do think that we should have some sort of certification process or something of that nature that we should recommend.
And I think that would lead to more standardization of the process. So that's a good thing to add to the report. So we will. Any other thoughts? Any feedback? Okay. So one of the things that the charges that we had was to open this up to the public. And I know that we've had different speakers, like the people from the mobile crisis unit came to speak, and we had speakers earlier on as well. Do you feel like we've had enough public input to this process? Do we need to have another meeting and have more public input?
I think we can never have enough public input, and we should invite more.
Okay, And we would, if we do that, we would have to have a special meeting in October, so it would probably be in the next couple weeks, so that we can complete our report. Are there any other thoughts? I mean, do you think we should be having another meeting? And, you know, who do we want to invite if we do?
I think there are people right now at this meeting. So it would be people from the community who've shown an interest in this topic. Perhaps we could hear from people now.
Okay. Well, now, let's see, we'd probably have to make that, notify people. Representative Woodbury?
Thank you. I think we've had good input from the public, but I think the best input we've had right along, and that's from the law enforcement community, who really understands the process from top to toe. So I don't feel that anybody's point of view has been left out. And I would point out that if we have another meeting, which is fine, and then we open it up at that point to new points of view that haven't been expressed before, we're very unlikely to get a consensus before our charge runs out on November 1st. So I think having another meeting is great to approve a draft, and I think we've all said enough today so that whoever actually puts pen to paper can do a good job that we'll probably all approve of in due course.
Okay, any other thoughts about that? I mean, I'm inclined to agree, looking over our, you know, all of our meetings and the participation that we've had, and the fact that we don't have much time to get our report in, that, you know, perhaps if people want to write in or have any thoughts to add, they can certainly do that. So, Judge Neto?
Just, I'm so sorry, one teeny little comment on paragraph 4, which I think is great about training. I would just say there that the recommendation is that we continue to provide training because we do provide it every year according to statute. I just didn't want the report to make it look like we've never done it before.
And regarding the trainings, are you planning on having regular trainings like once a quarter, or is it when a new law comes out? What's your training schedule?
Right now, we're required by statute to at least provide an annual training, and then we provide additional trainings when there's significant changes to the law or if we make changes to the forms. And I can ask Judge Ashley if that's her understanding.
Yes, that is consistent, and the timing of those trainings have been traditionally in the fall and month of October, September, October, which tends to coincide with the implementation of new law changes that have happened. So that seems to have worked well. And then when there's been any significant changes, we've added in additional trainings as necessary.
Okay, and what about new bail commissioners? How are they trained?
So new bail commissioners do get their own specific training. It obviously is handled frequently on a more local level. There's a pairing with an experienced bail commissioner. And so they're given, of course, the bail commissioner, there's a manual. We just recently revised that manual. And so it's very expensive. So obviously they have the opportunity to read through that manual and then also have, I would say, on the ground training. Now, I can't speak very intelligently about what may be happening with anyone who has started during the pandemic, because it is a different world that we're living in as far as seeing things in person. But that would be the norm. If someone does come on, they would get an individualized training as they start.
And what are your thoughts about certification?
I don't know who would be doing that certification. That anytime I hear that phrase, I think there's a system that needs to be put in place to have whatever that certification may be. So I agree that there is, it's always been sort of a word of mouth, a recommendation that this person may be a good one to step in as a bail commissioner if there's a need. So we can certainly look at that on a broad brush, but I don't know who would be in a position to certify a bail commissioner, or what the standards would be for such certification.
Thank you. Chief Mara?
Still muted, Chief.
You're on mute. Yeah.
You think I'd get a hang of that by now, but I agree it's something that can't happen right away, but it's something I think is a recommendation where you have somebody that basically just by word of mouth becomes a bail commissioner, and then they're making some extremely important decisions that can impact the community, can impact a person who's arrested, based on what decisions they make. I really do think that for a person to make such decisions and important decisions, there's got to be more than word of mouth on the job training with another bail commissioner. I think I really do think that look at those certifications we have. You have to be certified to be a barber. I mean, this is a very important position, and I think that more should go into it.
Yeah.
And we can avoid a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the newspaper. If there's consistent training, consistency throughout, we can eliminate a lot of the problems that we're having.
Okay. And, it sounds like it's aspirational.
Yeah.
Right? You'd have to find all the groups to support it, but we can still add that to the report. I think it's good to point.
I would just say that if there's going to be any certification process, there ought to be a board, and it can't just be something the judicial branch does.
Okay. Attorney Locke?
So this is going to change subjects a little bit. I was just curious, paragraph 6A, when it talks about kind of lessons learned from COVID and telephonic and video conference court proceedings, are we talking specifically about bail hearings, or are we talking about other court proceedings as well? And I just kind of want some clarity on that, because other, bail proceedings are one thing, but if you get into kind of evidentiary issues or anything like that, that could create other problems.
I think part of that was the failures to appear. We heard that the failures to appear have reduced dramatically because people could call in. And I'm sorry, I can't remember who said that. But it must have been from the judicial. It could have been Judge King. It was Judge King.
Yes.
So that's what that's in reference to. And also the texting if the texting program is in place to remind people, it would also help as well. But my big takeaway was the failures to appear, and because of using technology, calling in, they're reducing the failures to appear, which is really important. That was one of our goals to solve. And the answer wasn't punitive, the answer was technology. But it sounds like you might have some concerns about that.
So I don't have concerns about kind of like an arraignment or a bail hearing or kind of like a status hearing or something like that. It's more if we're getting into things where evidence is going to be taken or witnesses may be testifying, and then it's remote. That's where my concerns were starting to. I know certain things are. I'll let Judge Netto speak.
Yes, Judge Netto.
I was just going to say that I think the way the report is written is fine, because it's not mandatory. It allows for discretion of the judge. So I think the way it's written is fine. And just as an aside, we are doing some evidentiary hearings remotely, and they're working very well. Obviously, if it's a complicated case with exhibits and, we have some exceptions and we're having in-person hearings, but I wouldn't fully exclude evidentiary hearings from remote process. But as long as there's discretion of the judge built in, I think the recommendation is fine.
So this is a process that you agree should continue even after COVID. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Any other feedback? Lieutenant? Any thoughts? I'll put you on the spot.
Well, you can put me on the spot. That's fine. No, I agree with what's been said and what's been stated. I like the way the report reads. I think that we've accomplished a lot over this year. And the passing of the legislation earlier in July certainly highlights that. Bail commissioners absolutely need to be paid. We in Manchester definitely need more bail commissioners just due to the volume of people that we deal with. So I think all these are good points to be brought up and to highlight and certainly to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. And let me ask Attorney Velarde. Just want to make sure we hear from everyone.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I would just fill in a couple of the gaps with a real life situation, which was a real difficult time that one of the police departments in Stratford had to get a bail commissioner. And finally, one of the present panelists who wears a robe was called and had to step into that role. And that's not something that we want to see. Now, in unpacking what that situation was, that police department indicated that they weren't allowed to do telephonic bail. And I talked about that with the command staff, and they've actually rewritten their policy to make telephonic bail a go-to. And I think they're going to keep that after COVID. And the takeaway I got from that was when we are pressed to have an arrestee and we're calling around and waiting for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours with that arrestee, that's a serious amount of lost time for law enforcement. If we can avoid that just from an efficiency standpoint, that's a positive thing. So my takeaway in dealing with that police department is I don't see there's going to be a lot of resistance from law enforcement to having a list of go-to telephonic bail commissioners. What we want to make sure we're doing is that those bail commissioners have the infrastructure that they need to actually be able to complete those tasks and that they have the willingness to do that. Because as Trixie said, and she and I have been comparing notes also, there are some bail commissioners that just aren't on board yet with conducting their business that way, and that's understandable. But if we can build up a small army of bail commissioners who are willing to conduct business that way, a lot of these problems are going to go by the wayside. So I'm very appreciative of the input from other committee members in those respects. And I just wanted to bring that real life scenario to all of you because this is happening over and over again. And it's typically the law enforcement officers that are suffering because they're sitting on someone who should have been bailed hours before only because they can't find a bail commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Good feedback. Okay, any other input that anyone would like to give? Seeing none, we'll do another rewrite of the report, and then I'd like to just kind of have you all think about it for another week or so. And if you have any other thoughts that we need to add to it or input to it, then please send them along to me and copy Ava and also Jeannie. She's actually put the pen to paper and wrote this up for us. So thank you very much. You did a good job of capturing this. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and we'll look forward to hearing from you via email, but this will probably be our last meeting. So again, I want to thank you not just for being here today, but for all the work that you put in and the relationships that we were able to develop through this committee. It's been a very good experience for me, and I thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have a motion to adjourn? I think we have to do a roll call. Chief Mora, did you have a question or a motion?
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. And a
Second.
second? Thank you. So I'll take a roll call. I'm just going to look at you on the screen. Lieutenant Patterson.
Yes.
Yes. Attorney Hawks.
Yes.
Judge Neto.
Yes.
Judge Ashley.
Yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Chief Toussaint,
Yes.
Attorney Velarde,
Yes.
Attorney Locke,
Yes.
Trixie,
Yes, and I just want to thank you all for allowing me into the process. It's been a very productive and positive experience. I thank you all.
well, thank you for being here, Commissioner. Representative Woodbury,
Yes.
Chief Mara,
Yes.
Representative Rod,
Yes.
and I see Superintendent Church there, but I don't think he's there. And Senator LeBake says yes. Thank you again. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you, Senator.